Hi everyone, welcome back. I put these sunglasses on my head to film this podcast, and then I put them on as a joke thinking I'm gonna intro this video with them on, and I don't know why I thought that'd be funny. Actually, my humor's gotten really poor if I think that's funny. But then I took them off and I hated what I look like. Like, today's just one of those days where I hate what I look like, and everything's gone wrong, like hair and makeup wise. So I was like, I actually don't think I can film this podcast unless I keep these on. So today we're getting summer edition of the podcast because I am keeping these on because do you want to see what I look like without them? Like, probably the exact same to you, but to me, oh my god, that ruined my fucking mood. Like, it might sound like that. Summer edition, guys. We're getting summer edition. I can't deal with it being any other edition this week. So this week on the podcast, I thought I would stick with the format that I've tried a couple times recently, where instead of doing the how-to advice angle for the podcast, I kind of picked a question and discussed it and had a conversation about it instead. I feel like I've just been really enjoying that because I feel like there's so many things in life that just aren't black and white. There's so many questions that there's no answer to. And depending on who you ask, you will hear a completely different answer. And I find that really interesting. So today, the question is, should we be single in our 20s? For some context, I'm 21. Just feel like that's relevant to this video. I feel like everyone talks about your 20s on social media, like what you should make sure that you do in your 20s, what you should not do in your 20s, lessons to learn in your 20s, places to go in your 20s. Like, your 20s are like this era that everyone's like obsessed with, and to be honest, so am I. Like, I think it's really cool to say it right now. I am beginning my 20s and I feel like it's just gonna be crazy. Like, by the time I'm 29, like, who the fuck will I be? Do you know what I mean? I understand the intrigue with your 20s. However, one big thing that everyone talks about your 20s is being single in them is everywhere. I feel like the internet is very, very mixed though. Like, one week it's like, be single in your 20s, don't waste your time on a man or some shit, and then the next week it's like, we need to like work on our attachment issues and really become the best partners we can be. And I just feel like no one knows what they're doing, and it's very clear. No one knows what we're all just like guessing. I wanted to talk about this because I think the general consensus, the general gist of should we be single in our 20s, what are our 20s for, has drastically changed over time. Like, if you asked my mum, which I did actually this morning, because I sometimes feel like I assume what different time periods were like. I don't know if you call it a time period, like, I don't think she'd appreciate that, but like different eras, you know, when my mum grew up, I assume that there was a lot more pressure to settle down, to marry, to have kids, to, you know, if you were like out frolicking, traveling the world in your 20s, when my mum was 20, I imagine that was a bit frowned upon. I had to double check because sometimes I think, where have I got this information from? Films? Possibly. I possibly watched it in a film. But she confirmed that when she was in her 20s, there was definitely a pressure. But my mum's, it depends on your parents as well, doesn't it? It depends on your upbringing too. Like, I'm asking my mum, and she's obviously a certain upbringing that like someone else's mum hasn't had. Like, I can't go around asking every 40 or 50-year-old woman what their experience was like in their 20s. So I asked the first one I had, which is my mother, and she confirmed that yes, there was a pressure to, you know, commit, almost to meet someone and to settle down. She said that what we now use our 20s for a lot, you know, like having fun and trying things out and learning our lessons and whatever, she was like, we more have had our late teens to do that, and then when we hit our 20s, there was this general consensus that that's when we start getting serious. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, when do we get serious? Like, some people do obviously get into a relationship and settle down. I don't like that phrase because it sounds like your life's fun and then it's just not when you like get married or something, and like that's not how it should be, in my opinion. But like it's the phrase. So I would say now, I should have googled the average age to get married now. And the thing is, people don't even get married all the time now. Like so many people aren't phased about getting married. I'm not phased about getting married. Like, I'm not opposed to it, but I do not care if it happens or not, by any means. Like, that's not something I massively desire at all. It never has been. I've never been fussed about that. To me, it's kind of slightly unnecessary, although I do see the positives and the appeal, and maybe we can do one of these on marriage, because that would be interesting. Marriage and divorce, that would be my next episode. I feel like I look ridiculous in these sunglasses, and they're really just making my mood weird as well. But you know what, that's okay. I would say now as a generation, we aren't the same in that way. I don't think we are in any hurry to get married. We take our sweet time with committing. I think, honestly, as a generation, I think we all have a fear of commitment at this point. Like, no one likes to commit. Everyone likes to keep their options open. I feel like everyone now just wants to do anything other than commit to someone. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think do whatever you want. But it's just kind of like an observation. Like, oh, I think there's just so many more options these days. Like, I feel like in the past, when you hit your 20s, you've got some options, but not many. You could stay single if you wanted to, but like, potentially there's, as a woman especially, like, you're probably not gonna do great financially if you want a child. Like, how are you gonna fund it if on your own? Like, there's all these concerns. You could be single and everyone judge you. You could get married and have kids. I don't really know if like casual dating was a thing then. I assume that's always been a thing, but was it shunned? Now everyone's very open, and there's kind of, you can do whatever you want, and this is a great thing. Like, I'm fond of that. I don't know that I would have liked to have grown up and been in my 20s in an era where there's like 3 options to choose between. Like, I'm either single, I'm married, or I don't know. Is there even a third option? Like, I just feel like there was just this expected route that everyone would take, and it was rare for someone to not take that route. That's the vibe that I get. You pick someone and you marry them and you probably have a baby with them, and that's that. There was less options. Again, I did not grow up in like the 80s or 90s, so like, I could be very wrong. Whereas now, there is an insane amount of options. There's almost nothing that isn't an option. Like, if you sit and try and think of something you could do with your life, or you could do with your 20s, imagine anything, you could probably do it. Probably without a ton of judgment either. Like, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be judgment. There is always going to be someone to shame you and judge you no matter what you do, ever, with anything. However, the generation as a whole is pretty non-judgmental. I don't know. I would say so, but it depends what we're talking about. Like, sometimes this generation sucks, do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it does. But in terms of being open-minded, I would say it's pretty good in that department. I don't know. That's a topic for another day. Now, I feel like it's almost like there's an overwhelming amount of options now. No wonder people struggle or aren't craving such a commitment to one thing. In your 20s, you could meet someone and get married. You could stay single. You could casually date. You could, did I say travel? I think I said that. You could travel the world. You could travel the world with a partner. You could go alone. You could go with friends. You could have a monogamous relationship. You could have a polyamorous relationship. You could have an open relationship. You could adopt a baby. You could go on loads of Tinder dates for your whole 20s. You could sleep with whoever you want. You could do anything, ever. And I think, because there's so many options, I think we've all maybe got this mindset of like, I want to do it all. I want to try everything. I don't want to be tied down to the one thing. When, if you're saying yes to one thing in life, you're saying no to all the other things. Whatever you pick, whatever you do, you're saying yes to something, and therefore you're saying no to everything else. And whatever you do, that will be the case. For example, if you want to have a monogamous long-term boyfriend, you want to have a boyfriend in your 20s, you have written off casual dating, sleeping with whoever you want. However, if you want to casually date, you are therefore saying no to having a committed partner and a relationship in that way. You're not going to get that because you're doing that. Like, whatever you do, you can't do it all. And I think we all want to do it all, and there is this sense of like, you only have your 20s once, and no one wants to fuck up their 20s. I honestly think a lot of people nowadays would see being in a relationship as not like living your 20s out to the fullest. I feel like people, that's a general mindset that's fairly common. People almost see it as like a waste. Like, you're 20 once, like, why pick one person? And you know, that, of course, that's a point that you could argue. Like, you could argue all of these points because there's so many things and we all want to try everything. We all want to say we've done everything. I think that affects the level of commitment that people have, because I think if I was having like a hypothetical scenario, if I was having an issue with a boyfriend and I was like, I went to some girlfriends and I was like, oh, like, he's done this and I'm upset and I'm like crying about it. I think a lot of girlfriends or just friends would say things like, you're too young to be crying about this. Oh, don't waste your energy on him. You're literally 21. Like, there's this mindset of like, don't put yourself through it if it's hard, because there's a million other things to do, and just like drop it and do something else. And then when that gets hard, drop it and do something else. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I feel like people, I've talked about this in a video ages ago, like about cutting people out. People are ruthless. Like, dating and friendship and anything, like, people are just constantly like cutting people out, and they're constantly like, this person's not meeting my needs, so goodbye. And it's just like, at what point is that a little bit toxic? And like, you're not meeting everyone's needs either. You know what I mean? Like, we're all imperfect, and you wouldn't want everyone to drop and leave you, would you? Which we all could if we had that mindset. I could look at anyone in my life right now and think about all the things that they aren't doing perfectly and cut them out if I wanted to. But anyway, God, it's hot in here. Whew. So I think a point that you could argue, let's do a little debate team by myself. A point that you could argue, what are the pros and cons of being single in your 20s? Let's go. You can spend that time getting to know yourself. I think this is a big point that people make. Find out who you are, what you want, what you like, what makes you happy. Like, build your own life for yourself first before bothering with a relationship, because a relationship is effort. It is effort, it is a commitment, and it is time. And that argument has some merit to it, that you could argue that when you're 19, 20, 21, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And should you be burning up a load of energy on pursuing a committed relationship when you could put that energy into investing it into yourself? That is a big argument. That is probably the main argument, I would say. You're putting your energy in the wrong place. Your 20s are for finding yourself. However, debate team time. If you're in a healthy relationship, there should be nothing stopping you from doing that while having a partner. Your partner should not get in the way of self-growth, spending time with yourself, trying new things, hobbies, meeting new friends, blah, 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 anything. They should just be a supportive partner. And, you know, really, if it's a super healthy relationship, should it be burning up tons of energy all the time? No, like, they're hard and they're work, but should it be like a constant battle? No. Should it make your life any less yours? Should it make you grow any less? No. Not at all. So there's a little counterpoint. A pro to being in a relationship in your 20s is that your 20s are hard. Your 20s are already hard. Forget dating, forget relationships. They are confusing. It's a period in your life where you feel very lost. You feel very like you're kind of grasping for some sort of like stability, because you're like, I don't know what job I want, I don't know where I want to live, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. It's so stressful in so many other ways that you could argue having a stable partner that loves you and that you love is just like a helping hand in an era of your life which is gonna be exhausting either way. What's the harm in having a partner by your side to support you, and so you can kind of work it out together and avoid the excess drama that you may have in your 20s from dating idiots all the time and having to go through dating apps and all of that. Like, that's work too. And having a partner cuts out all of that energy, and you can just have a little best friend throughout your 20s that gives you a sense of comfort that you otherwise might not have in your confusing 20s. That is also a point to argue, because a lot of people's dating in their 20s is awful. And it's just like you can meet the worst people, and you can date on and on and on dating apps and things. People that have been in a relationship with someone for, years when they're my age, or like, they're like 23, 24, and they've been with their partner for like 6 years or something, like an extended period of their growing up, get a kind of shame almost of like, how have they been with the same person that whole time? How are they meant to know that's the person for them when they've only ever been with that person? Because it's like, if you've been with the same person from maybe like 16 to 24, I feel like people sometimes look at that and are like, how are you not wondering what else is out there? Like, are you not gonna, in like 5 years, be like, I regret not dating or whatever? If you date the first person that you've ever dated for an extended amount of time, you aren't gonna know if the grass is greener. You are not. And I think this generation is the grass is always greener, something better beyond this, there's something better beyond this. And that again links into like the commitment thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that to an extent. I think it can become very toxic and you can really miss out on a lot of really good partners doing that. Of course you can. You will not find a perfect partner anywhere. We all suck in some department. And I am of the belief that your partner is the partner that you choose. Do you know what I mean? It's who you choose is worth making it work for. Obviously, the foundation has to be pretty strong for it to be worth it. You're always going to suffer. It's just what is worth suffering for. Or is that a really pessimistic? I mean, I think that's reality, to be honest with you. I think I'm a weird blend of pessimistic and optimistic, because sometimes I think like, oh my god, that was a really depressing thought, like, or I say something and I'm like, oh my god, am I okay? But then like I go about my day just like living with the fairies in my head sometimes, and like thinking just the best of everything to a fault too. Like, does that make me a realist? I guess it would. Or just like insane. One or the other. There's no right or wrong, of course, to should you be single in your 20s. I think a lot of it comes down to your intuition. If you feel like I would rather put my energy into, like, I don't feel like I have a good relationship with myself, I don't feel like I'm anywhere near ready to like commit to someone and give them, put up my 50%. If you don't think that you are in that place and you think, actually, I'd really enjoy right now, this time in my life, just like being alone in whatever way you want. If you feel like that, then do that. I do not think you should put yourself in a relationship for any reason other than the fact that you really want to be with the person. There's no need. A relationship is not a necessity. And I truly just think, like, if you want to be single and you're going to be happy, then do that. I think all that matters is that you are having a fulfilling life that you are proud of, and that you will, it's a bit morbid, but you on your deathbed will look back and think, I loved how I lived my life. So happy that I made those choices, because we're all going to make shitty choices, but relationships, like, We're all gonna make shitty relationship choices too, but choosing who you're with is major choice. Like, it's a big choice, because it can really affect your quality of life if you pick a shit partner. And I imagine marrying one is just that on crack. Like, you don't want to marry the wrong person. You do have one life, and I do think you should be picky, and I think you should be intentional with what you're doing. I think if you want to be single, then know why you're doing it. If you want to be in a relationship, then know why you're doing it. If you want to do something else, know why you're doing it. I would say that to a degree I agree, well, that rhymes. To a degree I agree with, in your 20s, if you don't think this person is, you know, really worth being with, then, like, I kind of think don't bother. I kind of think be single. Sorry, I've just cleaned my glasses because I realized they're disgusting. The truth is, whatever you do, you will be slightly judged, slightly shamed. Like, there is no winning. If you spend your 20s committed to one person, people will sometimes think, oh my god, what is she doing? She's not, you know, met enough people to know what she's doing. She's wasting her time. And like, the second you fall out, people will probably be like, you're not a great fit, you never have been with anyone else, so like, you're never gonna probably hear the end of it from some people. You will also never hear the end of being single in your 20s from some people. Like, oh, don't you want to date? Don't you want to have like that person? Don't you want to like do this, do that? Like, people will bitch about every choice you make in your life, and I think it just all comes down to listening to your gut and making sure that you're happy, and knowing that whatever choice you make, people will bitch and people will moan. So you can't win, but you also can't lose. So I think it just comes down to listening to yourself. Like, what do you want? And also, what kind of life do you want? If you think about what life you want, is there someone else in it? Because maybe there isn't. Maybe there isn't at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if that vision of that life that makes you happy, there's no one in it, then what would be the point of, do you know what I mean? Like, just, only you know what will make you happy, and only you know what kind of life you desire. And everyone can project, especially like people older than you, or maybe your parents or something, will project onto you what you should do, because it's maybe what they didn't do or what they wish they did, and what their parents, I don't know. There's just nothing people say when they're judging you comes from them actually thinking what's right for you half the time. Like, half the time it is really just them trying to project some shit. So do what you want. And yeah, I don't know, it's just some food for thought, because I do feel like the tone has changed a lot with, I don't know, your 20s and what you should do. Like I said, you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to another. And just what's worth saying yes to right now? Like, would you rather just go out and flirt with some boys and be single and not have to like actually wake up and say hello to anyone? If that sounds desirable to you, then do it, because there's fun in everything, and like, life's too short. I think fulfill your wildest dreams. If the idea of committing to anyone right now is not something you want, then don't. You know, if that's a pattern for you, like I said, and it's like, you jump from, oh, that's too hard, no, and you're constantly like getting the ick, and constantly like, do you know what I mean? Like, you need to be self-aware enough to know something getting in the way of like perhaps what you might want. At the end of the day, just whatever. What a good quote. At the end of the day, whatever. I am gonna go. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to know. This is such an interesting topic to me, because I really just get the feel from everyone I speak to in my life, like whether it's friends or just people at work or people on social media, or just like any human I interact with. I feel like there is just such a like, why bother mindset, and it's just, I don't know, it interests me. And I just pulled my hair out. I honestly feel like I look like such a little diva today. These are actually like £2 Primark glasses if anyone wants them. They're really cheap. But I do not trust myself with anything of value, so especially things like sunglasses, because ding, cute little song, don't know what that means. Oil change. If anyone knows what I meant to do with that, I might change it. What oil? What oil? And yeah, your life should be about you. Make choices for you. Ignore social media sometimes. Like, honestly, it puts stuff in your head that you really don't realize until years later that, wait, I don't even think that. I just got brainwashed. Like, if you don't want to date or if you want to commit, do whatever the fuck you want. Get off your phone and find a boyfriend if that's what you want. I should join a debate team. Honestly, I should join a debate team. I would have so much fun. But I just don't want to do that. I'd get too mad. It would like make me an angry person being in a debate team. I'd be like, fucking shut up. Okay. I'm gonna go. Bye.